concern, violation of ethical principle and deviation from what is the moral right in administration. Nature, clearly wrong. Then the example: indifference, lack of comprehension, abuse of power, corruption, poor transparency. Distinct from dilemma, focus on deviation from established ethics. Then comes the ethical situation where a moral agent must choose between two or more ethical options, sacrifice on one or more process, conflict between good things, choose between saving people or one trolley problem, and involve choosing between competing ethical values. Then come conflict of interest, situation where decision in a public capacity have vested personal benefit in the private sphere of life. Abuse of public position for private gain, Chanda Kochar loan case. So then comes the crisis of conscience, a strong form of ethical dilemma where the moral agent faces the deeper inner tension and conflict, fighting with inner belief and external circumstance. Strong sense of ethical dilemma, doctor deciding hard transfer priority in land vaccine. A more intense version of ethical dilemma. Then comes the this ethical concern in administration. The source list, the ethical concern. So apathy and lack of compassion, indifference toward person's problem, lacking service attitude. Field training at Lavasna HCM, guest lecture sharing life experience. Then comes the abuse of power and authority, misuse of power. Then 360-degree appraisal, code of conduct for all India service, central service, Assistant Administrative Service Conduct Rule 1971, code of ethics, HOTA committee, and recommendation and citizen empowerment by RTI and Jan Sampark portal. Then comes the risk aversion attitude, reluctant to take risks or do innovative work due to fear of negative consequence, granting discretion power, the joint secretary and above, protection for action taken for good faith. Company Act 2013 in section 456. Then comes the corruption, taking undue gratification or not working while getting paid. Uh, Prevention of Corruption Act 1988, Santhanam Committee recommendation, e-governance and reduce direct interface. Bodies like CBI, CWC, Lokpal, SB, RTI, public interest litigation, NGO like ADR, civil society, social audit, SAT for Manrega and social audit and PFMS software. Then comes the poor transparency, lack of openness in administration. Then comes the e-office, government e-marketplace, GEM, citizen charter, Jan Sujna Providan in Rajasthan. Constituency and poor punctuality, not coming office on time, affecting efficiency. Technology like Aadhaar enabled voluntary attendance system should be there. Lack of accountability, not being responsible for action and result. Simplification of laws, IPC 1860 and CRPC 1973 reform and new laws, and repealed absolute laws like 76 absolute law repealed by Parliament in 2022. Then comes the potential patronage of cronyism, favoring individual based on political connection and personal relationship, affecting administrative efficiency. E-bidding technology, reducing discretion in tender, civil service board for promotion and transfer, and independence of policies, and the empowering central administrative tribunal to review a decision. Lack of integrity, dishonesty, failure to adhere to moral principle, training mission like Karm Yogi mission and national program for civil service capacity building introduce ethics in recruitment. Modern concern, misuse of personal data collection, data protection, bill like 2023 Satyam and Sparrow online performance record. Then comes the ethical decision making process. So, identify the moral problem. So, recognize that the ethical issue is exist. Then comes the describe the factual detail. So, gather all written fact and evidence related to situation. Then comes the example is the teacher not attending school on time affecting children education. Then how often the teacher is absent and how many children are affected, who has the observed this. List down the moral ethical value at stake. Identify the ethical principle value and vice involved or being violated. Example: efficiency, corruption, taking salary but not working, accountability of supervision and serpent, transparent lack of attendance record, children's right to education, connect value and wise not have the so then come brainstorming possible alternative for each value. So each value or issue identified, think of potential course of action or solution. Example: for inconsistency install biometric attendance, use technology and scientific table value, hold regular parent teacher meeting. Then determine the consequence of each alternative. Analyze the potential outcome, both positive and negative, of each alternative. Example: biometric attendance ensure punctuality but involves cost. CCTV similar benefit cost. Parent teacher many engaged community might not be sufficient. So take decision based on the analysis. Choose the best discourse or the action. Then important consideration in ethical decision making. So cannot violate canon of justice. The decision must respect justice, principle of justice. Example: the involved person teacher must have the right to representation, like providing lawyer to even terrorist like Kasam. So avoid personal bias, keep personal prejudice out of the decision making process. Development objective procedural formalities. Focus on the ultimate goal, improving education rather than just completing administrative step. Use different ethical approaches, apply various ethical frameworks, see, and like care ethics. Consider the impact of decision on relationship and feeling. Implementing the instead of immediate suspension. Harms test. Minimize negative consequence related to utilism. Then the reversibility test asks what if I were in that situation. Then the publicity test asks what I would comfortable if this decision was published in newspaper. Then the defensible, the decision must be legally sound and stand up in court. Time test. So decision must be timely delayed and justice denied and justice delayed. Then comes the type of ethical dilemma in administration. So the first dilemma is private cost dilemma, which means a conflict where personal interest are involved and thinking about personal benefit is not inherently long. So then, professional versus personal life, balancing demanding job, IPS officer to 24 into 7 job with family time, no family time. So principal versus principal, distinguishing two principal versus self preservation, Satyan Dubey exposing corruption and such. Then comes the right versus right dilemma. So conflict between comparing right or ethical values. So loyalty versus humanity. Loyalty company versus duty to expose wrongdoing in public health. Dinesh Thakur in Rain vaccine. Then comes the joint and co-joint ethical dilemma. Combination if often involve both person and broader ethical conflict. The Renbexy case can also be seen as the joint. Then comes the further example of dilemma. So profit versus social responsibility, balancing organization profit discoms with social welfare, policy free electricity. Then comes the preferential treatment versus non-discrimination, given special treatment, reservation, equal treatment, dilemma in situation of dire need to where rules might hinder access, tribal girls starving due to biometric failure in PDS. Then comes the need and end. So achieving a goal versus method use. So relocating a temple idol. Goal is development means involve respecting religion, sentiment. Then come autonomy and accountability, granting freedom to act, leave policy, and ensuring work is done. Officer responsibility for official function. And rules and discretion. So following strict rules, biometric for PDS versus a personal judgment for better outcome, giving ration if needed. Then royalty versus honesty. Royalty is to government minister and honesty in exposing corruption and wrongdoing. Automation and employment. Promotion of IIML robotics versus potential job loss due to automation. Oxfam report 69% job at threat. National interest versus humanity. Prioritizing national security, information extraction, interrogation as terrorists like Kasab, treating the individual humanly. And development versus sustainability, freezing economic infrastructural development, Mumbai Metro shade cutting trees, and versus protecting the environment sources for the future. Law and spirit of law, following the letter of law, stopping the traffic rules violator and adhering to intention behind the law, letting a ambulance pass over the red light. Then external accountability versus inner responsibility, following official procedure, sending juvenile offender to jail versus acting based on the concept of rehabilitation. Speed and accuracy, completely task quickly, building a bridge on deadline versus ensuring quality and correctness. Then comes the national security versus privacy, using measure like narco test for security versus protecting individual privacy. Then equality versus equity, treating everyone as the same by providing differential treatment support to achieve equal outcome. Then comes the approach to solving ethical dilemma, utilization approach, focus on maximizing the greatest good for the greatest number, quantitative utilitarianism, Bentham, and qualitative utilitarianism, Jasmine. Right based approach ensure the decision protect the right of the all individual involved. Every human has right to live with dignity. Fairness, justice approach treat all equal case equally, no avoid bias. Common good approach focus on welfare and benefiting of entire society. And Lok Sangra principle. Virtue based approach, the decision should align with and promote virtuous character in the decision maker. A virtuous person will naturally make right decision. Deontological approach. Focus on duty and adhere to rules and principle regarding of consequence. Kant philosophy. And Nehru approach prioritize national interest in decision making. Vivekananda's approach service to mankind is ultimate goal. Decision should aim at human service. Gandhi approach, the decision should be beneficial for the poorest and most marginalized section of society. Legal approach, the decision must be legally compliant and stand up to judicial scrutiny. The elite model, the framework for decision model. So this presented a structural approach incorporating several of the above earlier. Ethical, is the decision ethical, aligned with value and principle. Legal, is the legal principle legality. Integrity, does the decision reflect professional integrity, values like honesty, accountability, transparency, and code of ethics? Yes, then timely, is decision taken on time, justice delayed, justice denied. Empathy, does the decision consider empathy and equity? Okay, then so elite principle, revise elite model based on the description. So elite principle, accountability also there, democratic accountability, legality and integrity, professional integrity and responsiveness are there. Then the factor contributing the ethical decision making, individual level factor, attitude, one's mindset or disposition toward people, country, and influence. Then comes the PM positive attitude toward women reflected in his schemes. Women knowledge, understanding the ethics, value, rules, laws, right, wrong, impact, the ability to make ethical decision. Example, Kailash Satyarthi, knowledge of Lok Sangra principle lead to work for children. And individual value, personal virtue, and vice chap decision. Gandhi value for non-violence led to withdrawing the non-cooperation movement after Chori Chora. Legal awareness, knowledge of laws and regulation can prevent ethical action even if a personal value are weak. Awareness of domestic violence act leading to better behavior toward family member. Emotional intelligence, ability to manage one's emotion and understand others' feeling, crucial in situation like quiet control. Accountability, feeling responsible influence decision quality. So elder sibling making better decision due to early child accountability. Thana in charge in decision influenced by accountability for countless. In conflict of interest, presence of personal gain can lead to unethical decision. Chanda Kochar and father in cricket selection committee. Conscience, inner voice, and moral compass guide the decision. Then comes the organizational level factor. So the audit and transparency system ensuring scrutiny and openness in improvement ethical decision. Board of Director, the ethical stance and vision of leadership shape organizational decision. Strong leadership companies like Tata, Wipro, and Samit Sharma. So then comes the employee participation in management, involving the employee in decision making can improve outcome and motivation. Then comes the OYO offering ESOP. The process integrity, fair and transparent process to lead better decision, organizational value. So the stated and practiced value of the organization guide member decision. Example value like integrity, empathy, and transparency in civil services. Legal sanction and rules regulation, laws based on the legal framework like decision making, and Rajasthan Civil Service Conduct Rule 1971. Discussion about the degree of freedom given to officer to make decision impact outcome need based with accountability. Training can be impart value and knowledge, and mission karma yogi is the example. Then hierarchy and centralization versus decentralization, the structure of authority influence decision making, quality and efficiency, and balancing decentralization with accountability. Social level factor, social values, the predominant value in society, tolerance, compassion, and harmony influence individual and collective decision. Example, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam in Indian society fostering peace. Then the modern concept, newer ethical framework, and social improvement care, environmental decision, feminist ethics, BCCI, and equal pay for women, critical Me Too movement, black ethics, and Black Lives Matter movement leading to equitable decision. Legal sanction, laws at the societal level impact individual decision on society. PND Act, deterring the female foeticide, and RTI promoting the educational success. Judicial interpretation, court judgment are refined social norms and force changing in behavior and decision making. So Subrimala judgment allowing women entry in judgment to instant triple talaq. Then government policies, the policies can intensively with the encourage certain decision at the individual and family level. Scooty scheme encourage family to educate girl. Other factors are availability of alternative, having option allow to potentially better decision, and awareness of outcome and circumstance, freedom to act, and past experience of then environmental factor is also there. Relent to act and rules and committee and body. So Prevention of Corruption Act 1988, Santanam Committee, Hota Committee, All India Service Conduct Rule, Central Service Conduct Rule, Rajasthan Administrative Service Conduct Rule 1971, and Companies Act 2013, Section 456, mention of protection of action in good faith. Digital Data Protection Bill 2023, Mission Karm Yogi, and Central Administration Tribunal, RTI, PLI, Jan Sampark Portal, Jan सूचना Portal, Citizen Charter, e-governance, e-office, JM, and e-bidding, PFMS, the Public Financial Management System, Aadhaar enabled biometric attendance system, Sparrow system, social audit, SAT in Mahanagaraga, in Andhra Pradesh, an NGO, Association of Democratic Reform, and the Civil Service Society Organization, PCP and DT Act, RTE, Sabrimala Judgment, Triple Talaq, and Kishori Shakti Yojana. So Kalibai Bhil, Meghavi Chhatra, Scooty Yojana is also there. Key thinker and key thinker, the Sukrat. Knowledge is the only virtue, ignorance is only vice. An ethical decision is taken by an knowledgeable person. And the Plato, four cardinal virtue, wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice, ethical decision align with this. Aristotle, then the Jeremy Bentham, quantitative utilitarianism, quantity, greatest happiness for greatest number, focusing on the quantity. J.S. Mill, qualitative utilitarianism, focus on quality of happiness. Then the card, deontological ethics, focus on duty and regardless of consequence. So then Kant is also again the imperative. Imperative. Okay. Then Gita, Lok Sangra Siddhant, promoting social welfare over individual. Nishkam Karm, selfless action without desire for result and focus on duty. Mahabharat, example of ethical dilemma and justification. Killing Drona, Karna, and Duryodhan. Krishna action. Nehruvian approach, prioritize national interest. Gandhian approach, decision based on the benefit or poorest, and non-violence principle. Vivekananda, service of mankind as the ultimate goal. Marx, John Rawls, Buddhism, and hedonism, Chalakya, and Michael Sandel, famous for popularizing the trolley problem in Justice series. Then the key values are integrity, honesty, compassion, empathy, transparency, accountability, fairness, justice, accountability, autonomy, loyalty, humanity, speed, accuracy, equity, equality, wisdom, courage, temperance, professionalism, scientific temper, responsiveness, service attitudes, harmony, tolerance, kindness, national interest, sustainability, development, self-preservation, peace, and possibility. Wise are the apathy and lack of compassion, abuse of power, risk aversion, corruption, poor transparency, inconsistency, poor punctuality, lack of accountability, political patronage, and for nepotism, lack of integrity, indifference, discrimination, revenge, ego, and heroism. Then comes the we have this our the mind map for revise these things. So dilemma decision. So the we have seen the what is the ethical concern. So ethical concern and lack of compassion, and due to apathy and lack of compassion, so field training as at SCM RIPA, and training and guest lecture are given. Then comes the abuse of power. So abuse of power. 360 appraisal and conduct rules, code of ethics, Hota committee, and citizen empowerment, and Jan Sampark portal is there. Then comes the risk aversion attitude. So solution protection for bona fide action and Companies Act 2013, section 456. Then comes the corruption. So Prevention of Corruption Act 1988, Santhanam Committee, E-Governance, PFMS, and anti-corruption bodies, CBI, CVC, Lokpal, SCB, RTI, PIL, NGO, Social Audit, SSTA, e-procurement, Public Charter, Jan सूचना portal. Then comes this lack of accountability, the social audits, RTI, Charter, Whistleblowing Protection Act, Simplify Laws, CA, IPC, CRPC, Reaping Obstacle Laws, and standing oversight bodies, cat. Then comes this lack of integrity. Then solution like training mission Karmyogi and ethics introduced in exam. Then comes the moral ethical concern like privacy concern. So Digital Data Protection Bill 2023 and IT Act Amendment 2021. Then comes the poor efficiency. So the performance appraisal system Sparrow portal. Then the second one is the ethical dilemma. So a definition of ethical dilemma: choosing between two more ethical things, conditions, the moral agent, two more moral obligation, and conflict between obligation and value. Then comes the types of the dilemma. So private and public interest, short-term and long-term consequence, and justice versus mercy. Then comes the example of extrinsic ethics. So we have see that there are loyalty versus integrity, is Satan Dubey, efficiency welfare school teacher example, and the profit and the service responsibility in free buys, and preferential treatment and non-discrimination in PDS ration, and punishment versus reward in traffic violation, in individual freedom and social control in law, and transparency and confidentiality in government file, and personal belief and personal duty in LGBTQ, and resource allocation in COVID-19, and rules and compulsion in medical emergency, official duty versus personal time in emergency, and rule and discretion PWD fund, and whistleblowing Dinesh Thakur Ranvaxi, and law and order versus human right the protest, and national security versus individual liberty, and development and environment, mining and forest, letter of law and spirit of law, traffic stop, and external accountability and inner responsibility journal, and speed versus accuracy infrastructure project, and equality versus equity resource distribution, utilitarianism versus practicalism, and impartiality versus empathy, and justice versus forgiveness is there. Then solving ethical dilemma, Ellie model. So accountability, legally, and integrity and interest of society, and a elite model is also there. Then comes the approach of solving. So utilitarianism approach, greatest good, right based approach with dignity, and justice fairness approach, equal treatment, common good approach, community benefit, virtue ethics approach, character, and intuition approach, gut feeling, and moral rule approach, universal principle, and pragmatic approach, practical consequence, care of ethics approach, relationship, legal approach, compliance. Then comes the ethical decision making. So ethical decision making focus on duty, virtue, and focus on consequence, Bentham and Mill. Focus on value, Hinduism, Aristotle, Stoicism, heroism, Charvak, Gandhi, Mas, Scrolls, and Buddhist. Then come state of decision making. So identify the issue, possible details, list down the moral and ethical values at stake, list possible alternative, consider consequence of this consequence of alternative. Then factor influencing ethical decision making. So these are individual, organization, social, and support. So individual level, the attitude, knowledge and awareness by low emotional intelligence, past experience, personal need and interest, and consequence antaratma. Then comes the organizational level. So the leadership, employee participation in management, process integrity, organization culture and value, legal sanction and rule, discrimination power, and training program, and hierarchy, and centralization and decentralization, and code of conduct and ethics. Then comes the social level. So the social value, harmony, tolerance, and compassion, model concept, feminist ethics, and Black Lives Matter, legal sanction, PC, PNDT, and RTA Act, judicial imperative, Sabrimala and Tribal Talaq, government policies like Kalibai Bhil, Megavi Chhatra Yojana, and media importance and public opinion. Then comes the support system. So the peers, friends, family, and teacher are the support system. Then comes the ethical decision versus administrative decision, potential conflict are there. Then comes the conflict of interest, hito ka takraw. So the public duty versus private duty. So example are the Chanda Kochar ICC Bank insider training by Rajat Gupta and a cricket selector nepotism in India. Then the difference between ethical dilemma, no ethical good in conflict of interest is there. Then comes the crisis of conscience. So inner moral conflict, feeling of guilt and in is after a reason. So trolley bag problems. So inner development, meditation, spirituality, seeking guidance, difference from conflict or interest, focus on internal moral state, not necessarily external conflict between the duties. So this is the second lecture of our ethics program. So thank you.